want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, huh?
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
Do y'all remember the story I told y'all when I was in Houston and I was leaving out of a Walgreens and going to the Kroger and these two white men said, let's go get that nigga? And I went in and I told my mama and daddy, and my dad was like, let's go. My mom was like, Reginald, what you doing? He's like, hey, I ain't trying to hear that. Let's go. And I was like, okay. And we walked into the store and he rolled up on several groups of white men and was like, is that them? Is that them? And then we found the two and they were like, no, we weren't talking about your son. I'm just letting y'all know right now. Had this happened, all I'm saying is this white boy here would be having some problems. Y'all, this literally happened. Just watch this.
Go away right now.
Call the police.
Hey, they've already been called. They're just waiting.
Picking fights with who?
You know what? Maybe you should hang on a little longer. We'll see how it goes. Then we won't have to get the report by ourselves.
What is it you're doing here?
Walking.
Then walk.
Out.
Okay, and that's what I was doing. She came out of the house.
Well, you've been here like 15 minutes now.
Let's go. Walk away.
Keep walking.
Walk away.
I already walked away.
Walk away right now. You need help?
You got this on camera.
I'm happy to help you.
You already hit me.
I didn't hit you.
You just pushed me, sir.
There's a difference between
Pretty
pushing
sure you were the aggressor, buddy.
You're aggressing on the neighborhood.
Someone came running.
Walk back.
You better walk away. You walk away. You talking to my wife right now.
That's your wife?
Walk away.
I didn't do
Walk
anything.
away.
Your wife to speak.
Check it out. You either walk away or I'm going to carry your ass out of here.
Dude, if you touch
What do you
me,
want to do?
You better not touch me.
Or
I'm not
what?
arguing.
What are you going to do?
You up on me?
Let's go. Walk away.
I didn't do anything to you.
I'm about to do something to you. You better start walking.
I didn't do anything to her.
You better start walking
So
right
when
now.
you come after me like that,
I ain't coming after
you're the one in the
you.
wrong.
You're in the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. Get out. Get out.
I live here, sir.
Where? Where's your house? What's your address?
Maybe we should walk you home.
You can't walk me home.
Well, you bet. You want to bet what I can do?
I live here, sir.
Okay,
Right
what's your
now, you're
address?
harassing the
I'm
neighborhood.
not harassing anyone walking through the neighborhood I live in, sir.
Where? 'Cause check it out. We are a tight-knit community.
Okay.
We
How
take
long
care
have
of
you
each
been
other.
here? How long have
A
you
hell of a
been
lot
living
longer than your ass, because I have never seen you before in my
How long
life.
have you been living here?
That's
Why
none of
does
your
that even
business.
matter to you?
How long have you been
It
living
doesn't
here?
matter. You know what? Get the hell out of my face.
You've been
Get out of my
after
face.
You walked up to me.
Check it out, motherfucker. I ain't playing with you. You either get your ass moving or I'm going to move you.
You smell drunk.
You want to bet?
You are drunk.
I'm about to show you what I can do.
I would suggest that
You better walk away. Walk away. Walk away.
I'm walking. You keep following me, sir.
There's only one way out of here. It's right over there.
There's multiple ways out of here, sir.
You want to bet? Walk away.
Well, his ass went viral. We now know that this white man is a non-commissioned Army officer. His name is Jonathan Pentland, stationed at Fort Jackson. Guess what? His punk ass got arrested an hour ago, charged with third-degree assault for shoving that young black man who was simply walking in a Columbia, South Carolina neighborhood. Okay? Well, there was a news conference today where the chief announced this guy being arrested. Y'all go ahead and roll that.
At 8:30 this morning, Jonathan Pentland was arrested for assault and battery third degree in reference to the video that we've all seen. It's a very disturbing video. It's one that we're not going to tolerate or condone in Richland County. And the message I want to give is that when something like that happens, The Sheriff's Department is going to act very swiftly, and we're going to hold those responsible for those accountable. We're not going to let people be bullies in our community, and if you are, then you're going to answer for it. And that's what we've done in this case. This case first came to our attention on Monday when our deputies responded and took initial reports. They did a good job at that point because they didn't rush to make judgments. They took the information and it was passed to our investigators. Our investigators got it yesterday, but one of the most valuable pieces of evidence we had was the video. I want to thank whoever was responsible for that video. Thank you for doing that. That shows what our community can do when we work together. Taking videos, reporting stuff to us. Our initial call came from a citizen that lived in that community who saw the confrontation and called the Sheriff's Department and reported it to us. That's what we ask our citizens to do. When there's something going on in the community, call, let us respond so we can get involved and we can take care of it. And that's what happened in this case. That's what we all need to do. We have to work together to make sure that we prevent incidents.
Well, Jonathan Pentland, Robert, let's just say he had a few more visitors today. Hold on. Y'all pull the sound up.
On this earth is to make racist people uncomfortable.
My job beat their ass. I ain't with all that.
Don't go to jail.
Oh, I'm gonna make you shit on yourself. Yeah.
Don't go to jail.
Man, I know how to move operate.
Here's another video. Now, go to my computer, please. Here's another video you see from another angle of a lot more folk who was in Jonathan's yard. They were, again, folk said, since you want to sit here and see folk walking, guess what? We got some folk walking, and then not only that, they also, let me find the photo. I love this photo, Robert. I really do. Because, again, if you want to get black people attention, Jonathan, you got black people attention. They got all his business out here on social media. This is him and his wife, the one you hear talking. This is him, and guess what? We know about all y'all. Like, all they business out here. And, in fact, guess what? Now his bosses have now been involved. Now the Army is investigating, Robert. See? When your ass get a little extra and you're white.
Let's just appreciate two words I think all black men need to understand. It's called an abdominal holster. Abdominal holster. You can wear it with basketball shorts. You can wear it with slides on. You want to make sure it goes right here, even for us bigger fellas, so you have easy access to concealed carry. Because other than having a drone with you that records you 24 hours a day or a professional film crew, the only way to protect yourself as an African-American male in this country is to ensure that you are always exercising your Second Amendment rights. Because if there was not a camera there, imagine what would have happened. If somebody wasn't standing there with a cell phone, imagine what would have happened. We have to ensure that we are protecting ourselves and protecting our communities. We are being trained, that we are exercising our rights. I'm glad that the police department did the right thing, but just imagine what would have happened if he did not have a film crew there with him between those two individuals, the drunk husband and the wife. And I can't wait for the civil suit in this case. I'm hoping this young man is able to retire off of what he takes from this man's pension.
And Monique, you know what? The hits keep on coming. Because it ain't nothing like seeing who is the person over the military base where homeboy serves.
Uh-oh.
Meet Brigadier General Milford Biggs Beagle Jr. He's a brother.
Ooh.
Homeboy want to be famous, Monique. He famous.
Yeah, I mean, he's famous for all of the wrong reasons. And I'd like to believe at some point we can get to the point where the person who's in charge at the base doesn't have to have the same skin as me in order for him to have a conscience and desire.
Oh, no. That's just
to-
added pleasure. That's just added pleasure. But go ahead.
Right. But and you know, the way I deal with law enforcement, I don't make any assumptions when the skin's the same, because the output can sometimes be different than what we expect. But there are so many things that were wrong with this encounter, and Robert is right. God knows what would have happened if it wasn't for cameras, but I don't agree with Robert that strapping up would be a good solution, because as far as I'm concerned, that just lands the brother in jail for whatever ends up happening that happened off camera, because nobody would believe that he was actually taking the action in his own defense. So the issues are mammoth, and the solutions are going to have to be as varied and as wide and as deep in scope as the issues, in order for us to get any forward movement.
Hey, all I'm saying is, Scott, they actually planted a Black Lives Matter sign in the front yard. And so, but the thing that here's what got me, Scott, with the video that I thought was hilarious, that they gonna demand to know where he lived. Then he said, how long y'all been living? How long y'all been here? We ain't gotta tell you. Why I gotta tell your ass anything?
You know what's always fascinated me about this section of your show is that you don't have to make this shit up. You like had videos of people just doing this shit. You ain't gotta make it up. And it's just in 2021, we still have white people telling black people to get out of the neighborhood or you don't belong around here. We're a tight-knit community. And they know they're on video and they're still showing their their racism. But here's the last point. Here's a question, Roland. And perhaps there's some intellectual treatise on this. The history of black people and brown people in this country, what is it about the melanin in my skin, the melanin in my brothers and sisters' skin, that drive white people so crazy?
Easy.
To a level of hatred. It's expensive.
Easy.
Was expensive. Jim Crow's expensive. Slavery, quite frankly, got to be expensive after slaves were freed. What is it about the melanin in my skin that makes white people so mad and angry at me?
Because they were mad that we were never intended to walk around free. We would never. And even when the shackles were removed, it was never intended for us to even live in a same neighborhood. Let me remind people, which is why I tried to educate that Bama Allen West last night. It was Republicans who joined with Southern Dixiecrats to filibuster for almost 3 years the Fair Housing Act. Because they were like, look, all right, we let y'all asses vote. We let y'all asses ride the damn bus. Now, we let your asses eat in restaurants. All right, fine. You Negroes can swim in the pool. No, but ain't no way in hell y'all gonna live in our neighborhood. See, it didn't matter. But it was black Republican Senator Edward Brooke who brokered the breaking of the filibuster in the Senate in February of '68. It still went. And for 2 more months, the only reason the bill got passed because King gets killed. LBJ sent a letter on April 5th saying, let's pass this bill, which is what King gave his life for. So, Scott, the bottom line is, it was never white America's position for us to even be able to have this conversation right now because we were supposed to always be enslaved. And that is how dare you walk what we just witnessed where you live. We gonna walk you home. That was apartheid South Africa. Where your papers? Nigga, where your papers?
Yeah.
That's all that was. That was a slave patrol.
Steal.
That's what that was. And this dude all buff, I'm going to sit here. Yeah, I hope your behind get court-martialed. I hope there's a dishonorable discharge. I hope all of that, because we have to, that's what I keep saying. Zero tolerance. No. We ain't about to sit here and pray. We ain't about to take a knee and sit here, you know. We ain't about to sing some freedom songs. No. No, your ass has got to go, because we ain't dealing with that. We ain't dealing with it. I mean, it's as simple as that, you know. And so, Robert, you know, now he well known. Monique, now him and his wife now they're going to be apologizing to the neighbors. But when we say we're a tight-knit group, now they're going to be like, look at y'all asses. Brought these damn folk, 100 folk around here every single day. Y'all, they got his address on Twitter. They going to have, they might as well, you know what, here's what I advise. Hey, Jonathan, you and your wife should listen to Uncle Roro. I would advise y'all to go get a really big barbecue pit, and y'all need to have a community cook-off, and y'all should be just apologizing to every black person you see, because y'all about to have visitors every single day, because we ain't having that. Game is changing. So Jonathan Pentland, y'all, arrested this morning, and that's what happens when you decide to act a fool. Real quick here, saw this story yesterday, folks. First of all, I got to read this here. A Fort Jackson spokesperson did say, quote, "This type of behavior is not consistent with our Army values and will not be condoned. We have begun our own investigation and are working with the local authorities." And don't forget, y'all, not only is the commanding brigadier general of that base black, so is the Pentagon chief, Lord Austin. Just wanted to let y'all know that. So, Jonathan, you may want to go ahead, player, and yeah, you may want to do some backup there. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
The GOP's war on voting rights across the country continues. In Texas, the state Senate has passed a bill limiting extended early voting hours, prohibiting drive-through voting, banning local election officials from proactively sending vote-by-mail applications, and allowing poll watchers to video record voters receiving assistance in filling out their ballots, among other measures, essentially allowing poll watchers to intimidate voters. The legislature is also currently considering legislation that would restrict the number of voting machines at county-wide polling places. But that's not all. In fact, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, the Texas legislature is currently considering more than 100 proposals to severely restrict voting rights and voting access. And now NBC News has learned that Texas Republicans are actively trying to recruit a quote of, well, an army, really, of 10,000 poll watchers, all to fight voter fraud in Houston, which is not non-existent. And Houston is, coincidentally, a large minority area. Remember, the 2020 election was extremely safe and secure, with absolutely no evidence of widespread voter fraud of any kind. All of this is based off of dear leader Donald's election lie, a delusional and racist fantasy that he and the GOP made up as an excuse for losing the presidency, the Senate, the House, and scores of local legislative seats across the country. This isn't about protecting voting. This is the actual fraud. It's a desperate power grab aimed at preventing the opposition from voting. Joining me now is a great friend of the show, Roland Martin. He's the host of the show Roland Martin Unfiltered. And Roland, we have talked to you for years. You and I have talked for many years about a host of things. We haven't always talked about Texas. You're from Texas. You live this. You know what it's like to be a black person in Texas. And right now, all of these laws are actually focused on black and brown people in Texas.
That's 100% true. I'm still registered to vote in Texas. And the reality is there's no greater threat to democracy in the United States than the Republican Party. To listen to the gutless leadership of Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick shows how sick and demented these people are. There was a news conference this week where Patrick said, how dare you question his integrity and that of 18 Republicans in the United States Senate? Well, we actually can. It is all based upon a lie. Well, here's what you have to understand what's going on in Texas. Democrats have been highly successful in Harris County, Houston, Dallas County, Dallas, Bexar County, San Antonio, the larger counties in Texas. They have decimated the Republican Party in the suburbs. And so this is what this was about. The Democrats were 5 seats away from taking control of the Texas House in the last election. They didn't pick up any of those. Republicans see what's going on. They see the Latino population driving an increase in congressional seats. And so they want to control power as much as they can, frankly, for their largely white base. It's pure and simple. All this nonsense you're seeing, Georgia, Texas, Florida, it's all because of the lie of Donald Trump. They cannot show any voter fraud. That's what this is all about.
It's important to note in Texas is a little bit different from a lot of other states in that the lieutenant governor is particularly powerful. Dan Patrick's particularly powerful. He presides over the Senate, which is, where the laws get made. He offered a reward of $1 million for evidence of voter fraud. He hasn't paid the $1 million. This is a guy who actually said, I'll pay you if you find it, and they didn't find it.
Right. There you go. Dan Patrick is a deranged individual. Dan Patrick, here's the deal. He used to be a sportscaster at KHOU in Houston, began to own some conservative radio stations. I used to often debate him on a local public affairs show on the NBC affiliate, and has become even more far right-wing conservative as the years has progressed. Do I trust him? Absolutely not. Is he a man of integrity? Absolutely not. What the Republican Party is doing, they see the demographic changes. This is white fear that's driving all of this. We got to call it what it is. And the real thing that really bothers me, Allie, is, and I got to go ahead and say it, I'm greatly disappointed the actions of black people like Allen West, like Senator Tim Scott, like Alveda King. You run around talking about you're the niece of Dr. King, but you say nothing. What's even more egregious is that you have gutless black Republicans who know what they're doing. What they're doing is they're embarrassing the elders, they're embarrassing the ancestors, and they know what the Republican Party is doing, and they are cowards in that they're not saying anything against this. They're not doing what Colin Powell did in North Carolina when you get the Republican governor there. They're not calling them out for what they're doing. It is a direct assault on black and Latino voters, and what they're doing is trying to shave the margins. They see this train coming, and instead of trying to appeal to broader voters with policies, they want to say, let's cheat. And this is pure cheating. You want to talk about election rigging?
Okay, so let me ask you about that, Roland, because you have told me for years, you really educated me on the power of black conservatives. There are a lot of conservatives in the black community, and they can, if they wish to, enter the arena and compete in the field of ideas. But that's not where Republicans are going with black people. That's not where Republicans are going with Latinos right now. They're going somewhere else. They're saying, we're just going to hold off on letting you vote. We're not actually going to tell you why it would be worth it for black people and Latinos to vote for Republicans.
Yeah, they don't want to compete for black votes. They compete more for Latino votes. It's sort of like 70-30, but their attitude is pretty much, okay, fine, we've given up on y'all. And the Trump folks, there was a slim margin, a sliver. Hey, we can appeal to black men who are disaffected with both parties. They know black women hate the Republican Party more than anybody else, but they don't want to compete. And what angers me when it comes to black Republicans like Senator Tim Scott
Scott, like Congressman Burgess Owens, if you actually had the guts, stand up. They would stand down. Be like the late Republican Senator Edward Brooke, the first African-American elected to the Senate since Reconstruction of Massachusetts, who stood up to Southern Democrats and moderate Republicans and stopped the filibuster of the Fair Housing Act in 1968. Stand up and call out your party and say, this is not right. We should be expanding access. But then, how do you oppose drive-in voting? How do you oppose what Chris Harris was doing in Harris County? How do you oppose that? It's because they do not want to compete with ideas. And I said to Abbott and to Patrick and to these folks, I will do everything in my power to fight this because I am a man. I am a black man. I'm a native Texan. And what they need to understand, the Republican Party, listen to me clearly. What my frat brother Vertner Woodson Tandy said best, my alpha brother, we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will fight on the ice. There is no greater issue for black folks than the fundamental right to vote, and that will never change.
I will remind you, you don't need reminding, I'll let our viewers know, Senator Edward Brooke of Massachusetts, black Republican, is the guy who kept reintroducing bills to get Martin Luther King recognized for an annual day that celebrated him. So there is still an opportunity for black Republicans to do the right thing here, come out against what their party is doing, and argue on the field of ideas. Yeah. Roland, good to see you as always. Thank you, my friend. Roland Martin is the host of Roland Martin Unfiltered, as you can see now why the name of his show is Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, let's go to South Carolina, where the white Army non-commissioned officer who was caught on video assaulting a black man, he is now out of jail. He was released on a personal recognizance bond. Jonathan Pentland, he was charged with third-degree assault. He's only facing a maximum of 30 days in jail and a $500 fine. Of course, earlier this week, the video went viral of him threatening a black man who was simply walking in their neighborhood. Since the video went viral, hundreds of people have flooded the neighborhood of protest in front of it, not just in front of their home, in their yard. Last night, it got so bad that the Richland County deputies were called to the neighborhood shortly after 8 p.m., and the officers escorted the Pentland family from the home to another location. You know what, Brittany, I don't really feel sorry for them, because if you did not accost the young brother who was simply walking the neighborhood, you wouldn't have all this heat and attention on your ass now.
I don't feel sorry for him at all. I mean, quite frankly, I'm like, it must be nice after you have been the perpetrator, you have done something wrong to our community, that you still get to have a private escort. We don't get that type of treatment. I was just happy to see that, you know, so many people in the community came out to go in front of his house and to continue to protest and make sure and ensure that something was done after this happened. But I don't feel bad for this man at all. And quite frankly, I think it speaks once again to the political, you know, the ideologies of the people that work for the state, seeing as though he was an Army sergeant.
Yeah, Brett Carr, I'm good. So guess what? If you catching heat, you brought it all on yourself.
You know what's funny, Roland? I'm thinking about that. You know, a lot of good friends in Columbia spend time there. You know that Columbia, South Carolina, is the original home of the Citadel, where the South Carolina legislature put that money in the legislature in the wake of the Denmark-Vesey Rebellion. And of course, Denmark-Vesey was an original member of what became Mother Emanuel AME Church, where Dylan Roof, who is safe and sound in jail instead of dead, you know, went in there and killed black folk. When I look at a guy like that, Jonathan Pentland, as you say, Brittany, we wouldn't get in this escort. My question is, where are they taking you? Are they going to take you on base now, where you and your family can kind of relax and chill, and, you know, you'll see what's going on? You know, you should feel the terror that we feel. And so you need to sell that house. You need to never be comfortable on that block again. And all the folks who are protesting, y'all should just leave now and wait till they come back, then come back. Because I see how they came out the side of their mouth with the young brother was involved in other incidents, but that's not relevant to this. Well, why the hell did you say it then? No, we're going to start policing y'all in the true spirit of Denmark-Vesey. Except ain't no Citadel going to save you, brother. Wherever you going, we there too.
And I hope, Amisha, that the U.S. Army takes action against him as well.
I agree with you 100%, Roland. My frustration here extends in multiple directions. First and foremost, this guy presented himself as a threat, as a danger to someone who was simply walking down the sidewalk, someone who he was outsized. He was literally at least 2 times the size of the guy who would have been his potential victim. He was trying to invoke fear. My issue here is that had the role been reversed, and this was a black guy, and him and the white guy could have been of the same size and stature. At the end of the day, when that black guy got locked up, his bail would have been set a lot higher. He wouldn't have been released within 24 hours. There would have been real charges. I have an issue here with how this was actually handled after reports were made as well. Not only is this guy receiving access protection, which is taxpayer funded, but he is also someone whose crimes committed aren't necessarily matching the pattern of the justice that is supposed to be served. Again, this is not a colorblind system, because the risk assessment tool, his level of risk is higher considering what he just showed that he had the capability of doing. And had there not been people to watch it, had there not been a video, who knows what he would have done.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. If y'all want to laugh, okay, so let's talk about the election here. Now, first off, let's talk about Georgia, where Will Smith and Antoine Fuqua have announced that they are removing the shooting production of their film Emancipation in Georgia. Here's what their statement they released. At this moment in time, the nation is coming to terms with its history and is attempting to eliminate vestiges of institutional racism to achieve true racial justice. We cannot, in good conscience, provide economic support to a government that enacts regressive voting laws that are designed to restrict voter access. The new Georgia voting laws are reminiscent of voting impediments that were passed at the end of Reconstruction to prevent many Americans from voting. Regrettably, we feel compelled to move our film production work from Georgia to another state. Well, that didn't sit so well with Allen West, a native of Georgia, who now is the chair of the Texas Republican Party. So he decides to put this video out, and it says, go to the video, please. Allen West responds to, go to the video, thank you. Allen West responds to Will Smith, Antoine Fuqua, and Roland S. Martin. Really?
Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. You know, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just heard some news. And it has to do with the Hollywood movie industry. And as you may not know, Georgia has become one of the largest movie production facilities and studios in the United States of America. I think it's second or third after Hollywood. Well, I just found out that Will Smith and Antoine Fuqua, I believe, they have decided that they are going to move their movie Emancipation, it's supposed to be a drama about slavery, out of Georgia in protest of the Georgia voting law. I found it very interesting that Will Smith and Mr. Fuqua wanted to do this because, well, the Republicans were the ones that stood up and fought against slavery. As a matter of fact, If you go back and look at the history of the Democrat Party, all this talk about Jim Crow, those were the Democrats that implemented the policy of Jim Crow, segregation, slavery, whatever you want to call it. And they continue today with the soft bigotry of low expectations. But when you think about this move, emancipation, well, that word has a lot of meaning because of the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed because of a Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. And there in the state of Georgia, Mr. Smith, I want you to remember that the very first member of the United States House of Representatives that was black, well, he was a Republican from Georgia, Mr. Jefferson Long. So I think maybe you should look at your history and make sure that you get it right. And oh, by the way, hey, Will, show me where you can go without an ID. I don't even think you can get on an airplane without an identification. I know that I can. Now, does that mean that these airlines are racist? And when you look at the Georgia election law, there are many other states controlled by Democrats that have election laws that are far more restrictive and stringent. So again, all of this background noise that we hear from these Hollywood elites and these corporate fascist oligarchs, it doesn't have a hill of beans of a meaning to any of us. And oh, by the way, Roland Martin, I think you call me gutless for not standing up and speaking out against voter laws. Well, guess what? I fought in countries where we wanted to make sure that they had honest, free, and fair elections. And I will continue to fight for the exact same here in these United States of America. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.
Really, Alan West. Now, let me show y'all this here. I issued a response to Alan West, and I put this on Twitter. And then Alan decided to, let me just show you what he posted in response. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see here, right here. So a couple of hours ago, Alan called my response nuts. Go ahead and show it, please. Thank you. Nuts. All right. So here's what happened. My booker, Jackie Clark, Jackie called Alan West. I have his number. Called Alan West. You know what? Why don't I just call Alan right now?
Alan West speaking.
Alan, Roland Martin, I'm on the air. Let's talk about voter suppression in Georgia and Texas.
There ain't no voter suppression, brother.
There's no voter suppression? Alan, let me ask you a question.
No.
If the Republicans had won, Alan just hung up, y'all. Alan just won. See, here's what I was going to ask Alan West. If the Republicans had won, would any of these bills be passed? It's a very simple question. It's a very simple question. Would any of these bills have been passed in Georgia? The answer is no. None of them would be passed. Not a single one. See, and let me show y'all how they're trying to play the game here. You saw in the video where Alan West says, in the video, Alan West says, oh, voter ID. See, they want everybody to think the bill is only about voter ID. It's not. What Alan West, native of Georgia, will not tell you, why are they placing the mail drop boxes inside of the voting location? Which means that when the voting location is closed, you can't drop your ballot off. What they will not tell you is, why are they making it illegal for, let's say I was registered in Georgia, and my mama and daddy were registered in Georgia, and my mama and daddy filled their form out and said, son, take this with you and drop it off. The law says I cannot drop off my mama and daddy's absentee ballot. Why? What's the problem? They have restricted the number of drop boxes. Alan West then says in his video, oh, there are many more states in America led by Democrats with far more restrictive voting requirements than Georgia. Name them. I've heard y'all say New York State, and guess what? Progressives and liberals have been fighting for years to change the voting laws in New York State for that very reason. And they were successful in the last session. But I find it interesting, Alan West, y'all keep talking about Colorado having fewer early voting days than Georgia. But y'all don't want to admit it's also because 90% of the people, 70 to 90% of the people in Colorado vote by mail, which y'all want to restrict. Alan West, stop lying. Alan West, stop lying. So now let me deal with how folk like you want to cloak yourselves in the Republican Party of the past. Oh, it is factually correct, Alan West, that the radical Republicans were the ones who were fighting slavery. It is correct that the radical Republicans were the ones who led the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment. Oh, it's absolutely correct. And it was indeed the Southern Dixiecrats who were racist and wanting to keep slavery. But Alan, after 1964, I'm sorry, Alan, was it a Southern Democrat or was it a Western Republican who supported the 1964 Civil Rights Act? I'll wait. Fact, Alan, it was Southern Democrat President Lyndon Baines Johnson who shepherded the 1964 Civil Rights Act through Congress. It was Western Republican Barry Goldwater who opposed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And then it was Barry Goldwater who then wrote a book that flipped the Republican Party, and then the Republican Party then began to oppose civil rights in a significant way. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alan West, but was it not a Republican candidate named Ronald Reagan who stood for states' rights and was very much anti-civil rights? Was it not a Republican president, Alan West, in Ronald Reagan, who opened his campaign in the same location, Philadelphia, Mississippi, where 3 civil rights workers were found? If I am correct, it was the same Republican, Ronald Reagan, who gave that particular speech on the issue of states' rights. Correct me if I am wrong, Alan West. Was it not Republican Ronald Reagan who then viciously attacked civil rights organizations? Then he used that BS nonsense of a welfare queen to attack black people. Was it not Republican President Ronald Reagan, Alan West, who would not condemn the racist apartheid regime in South Africa? Was it not Republican President Ronald Reagan, who vetoed the bill to place sanctions against South Africa, and that veto was overwritten by Congress? Was that not a Republican, Allen West, who did that in Ronald Reagan? Would you like for me to continue, Allen West? Would you like for me to pull the audio tapes of Republican strategist Lee Atwater, who ran the presidential campaign of Vice President George H.W. Bush? The same Lee Atwater who was named chair of the Republican National Committee. Do you really want to have this conversation with me about race and the modern day Republican Party, Allen West? Since you want to cloak yourself in what Republicans did during slavery and during the civil rights movement, by all means, let me show this here, the Lee Atwater tapes. Let me Google that. Do you really want to go there, Allen West? I don't think you do. I don't think you do. Because see, here's a headline right here. Lee Atwater, the dark and dirty side of GOP politics. Where Lee Atwater actually talked about how they did not have to use racist language. They substituted certain words that served the same purpose. Allen, you opened this can of whip ass. I didn't. Do you disavow what Lee Atwater did? Do you disavow the Willie Horton ad? Do you disavow the racism of Jesse Helms, Republican? Do you disavow the racism of Strom Thurmond, Democrat, who led the Southern Manifesto in 1948, where they unfurled the Confederate flag? What did he later become? The Republican senator from South Carolina? Republican Allen West. Do I need to go through, Allen West, the number of Republicans in my state of Texas, and where you now are the head of the Texas Republican Party? Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and do this here. Let's see. Go to my computer, please. Here we go. Let's see. Texas GOP chairs and racism. Allen West, since you won't open this can of whoop ass, here we go. This is the headline from the Texas Tribune from June 6, 2020. Conspiracy theories and racist memes. How a dozen Texas GOP county chairs caused turmoil within the party. On Friday morning, 5 GOP county chairs were facing backlash for sharing racist social media posts. The Texas Tribune identified 7 other GOP county chairs across the state who shared similar posts. This is why I called you gutless, Allen West. I called you gutless because you won't say jack about voter suppression. I called you gutless, Allen West, because you want us to accept that, oh, it's the Democrats and oh, what they did. Oh, and by the way, you commented about the first member of the House being elected to Congress there from Georgia. But I noticed something, Alan West. You failed to say what the black Republicans said when they were run out of Congress. You failed to mention when the Republican Party agreed to the 1877 Compromise and the black Republicans said they were abandoned by their own party for political interest. See, Alan, I'm a real Texan. You ain't from Texas. You were born in Georgia, represented Congress in Florida. You went to Tennessee, and you just moved to Texas a few years ago. I'm born and bred. Mama and daddy, born and bred. Maternal grandparents moved there in the 1930s. Daddy's folk from Texas. So I'm fourth generation Texan. See, Alan, we got a slogan in Texas that I think applies to you. All hat and no cattle. All hat and no cattle. See, you don't really want to debate me on this, do you? See, Alan, the previous times you came on my show, you were thoughtful, reasonable, but then I would see you on Fox News, then you'd be talking crazy. Because, see, you knew that bullshit couldn't fly with me. Because you know I would have smoked it out in a heartbeat. So, Alan, you can talk big on YouTube. You can bump your gums with all your Republicans. But you know why you not going to come here, Alan. You are not going to come on this show because you know I do not allow lies to stand. You know I will walk down every single Republican lie when it comes to voter suppression. I'm going to end it on this one here, Alan West. There are a lot of black Republicans who I know. And there are a lot of black Republicans who I know and respect. And there are black Republicans, Alan, who are willing to speak truth to power. There are black Republicans who are not afraid of kissing Donald Trump's ass. They don't need to do that. I'm going to show you one of them, Alan West. And in fact, you, Alan West, said you served this country. So did this brother. Last I checked, you don't have 1 star. He's got 4. Alan West, this right here is a black Republican with a conscience. This right here is a black Republican who is willing to tell his party the truth and not be afraid. This right here is a black Republican who stood up at a CEO forum in North Carolina in 2013 with the Republican governor in attendance and blasted the governor for signing a voter suppression bill, and he was sitting in the audience. Go back to my computer. Alan West, this is what this black Republican, this black Republican veteran, this black Republican four-star general had to say. He said, quote, "It immediately turns off a voting bloc the Republican Party needs. These kinds of actions do not build on the base. It is just turns people away. I want to see policies that encourage every American to vote, not make it more difficult to vote." Politico wrote, go back. Politico wrote, the bill requires voters to show government-issued ID, shortens early voting, and ends pre-registration for teens, among other changes. Thursday, Powell said the bill sends a bad message to minorities. What it really says to the minority voters is, we really are sort of punishing you. Powell also took aim at defenders of the law, folk like you, Alan West, including McCrory, who say such restrictions are necessary to stop voter fraud, which is hard to detect. Quote, "You can say what you like, but there is no voter fraud," Colin Powell said. "How can it be widespread and undetected?" So you see, Alan West, I don't dislike all black Republicans. I only call out those who are gutless. I only call out those like you who don't stand up for black people, who are willing to be apologists for white conservative Republicans, who fear the power of a changing America. Alan, maybe you need this job. It's a shame that you do, because what it really says, Alan, that you really don't care about the people. You say, and you did indeed join. You did indeed join the military, and you said to fight for the right to vote. But it's clear. It's real clear, Alan, that you only fought for it for some people, not all. And Alan, I want you to know something. If you continue to stay the course, I want you to understand that history will remember you well. And Alan, here's my advice. Don't go down in history like this brother right here. Do you really want, Alan, when breath has left your body, for you and other black Republicans like Paris Denard, Bruce Lavelle, Angela Stanton, Vernon Jones, Alveda King, Marge Teray, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, folk like Deontay Johnson? Do y'all want to be known as 21st century Isaiaht T. Montgomerys? Who is Isaiaht T. Montgomery? He was the only black person who was a delegate to the Mississippi 1890 Constitutional Convention, where they were so sick and tired of black people being elected to office that they changed the law and Isaiaht T. Montgomery actually voted with those white racists to disenfranchise black voters. And ever since 1890, not a single African American has been elected statewide in Mississippi. Alan, only you can decide if you want history to say you had the courage to be a truth teller to your party like four-star General Colin Powell. Or they will simply say Allen West was nothing more than a 21st century Isaiaht T. Montgomery. What are you prepared to do? All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. 1 or 2 police officers caught on tape pepper spraying and pointing guns at a black and Latino Army officer, Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario, during the December 6, 2020 traffic stop. That cop has been fired. Okay, the town of Windsor released the following statement yesterday. The statement reads, the pursuit and ultimate stop resulted in the use of pepper spray against Lieutenant Nazario by Officer Gutierrez. As a result of this use of force, department policy requires an internal investigation to determine the appropriateness of such actions. The investigation of this event began immediately. At the conclusion of this investigation, it was determined that Windsor Police Department policy was not followed. This resulted in disciplinary action, and department-wide requirements for additional training were implemented beginning in January and continue up to the president. Since that time, Officer Gutierrez was also terminated from his employment. Folks, first of all, we're not buying that crap, because the only reason that statement came out is because this video got released over the weekend. Social media blew up. Here's a video from the camera of Officer Gutierrez. Watch, listen.
Open the door slowly and step out. Open the door. Get out the car. Open the door slowly and get out.
Get out of the car now.
Open the door. Get out the car.
Hold. Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window. Get out of the car now.
Get out of the car.
Now. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now. Yo, well, guess what? I'm a veteran too. I learned to obey. Get out of the car. Get out of the car now. What's going on? You're fixing to ride the lightning, son. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Sir, just get out the car. Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out.
What's
Get out.
going on?
Get out the car.
Get out now.
I have not committed any crime.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest for you're being detained. Okay, you're being detained for obstruction of justice.
Traffic violation. I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told me why I'm being stopped.
Really?
Get
out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me.
Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me.
Not a problem.
Hands off me.
Back up, Daniel.
I didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir, get out of the car now.
Hey, sir.
Get out of the car now.
Sir, look, I'm trying to talk
Get out.
to you. Okay. I'm trying to
I'm
talk.
Get out.
Just get out of my car. Can you please relax?
Get out.
Please relax.
Get out of the car right now. Now.
This is not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're going to treat me.
Back up, Daniel.
I didn't do anything.
Back up.
Whoa, hold on.
Daniel.
What's going on? Hold on. Watch it.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car now.
That's fucked up.
Get out of the car now.
Sir, just get out the car.
I'm trying to breathe.
Get out of the car now.
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up.
Yeah, get out of the car and get on the ground now. You're going to get it again.
I don't even want to reach my seatbelt.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
Can you please?
Get out of the car now. Listen, take off your seatbelt and get out of the car.
Look, I'm just gonna please.
You're gonna do what you're told. Get out of the car.
Look.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the. Take your seatbelt off.
Look, my hands are out.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
My hands are out.
Don't reach in there, Daniel. Don't reach in there.
My hands are out. Please. Please, look. This is really messed up. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car. Take your seatbelt off. What are you, a specialist, corporal? What are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, get out of the car. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. You made this way more difficult than it had to be if you just complied. Get out of the car.
I'm reaching for my seatbelt.
Fine. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. Straight onto the ground. Straight onto the ground.
Ma'am. Is your commanding officer available?
Down. Let's go.
Is your commanding
Let's
officer
go.
available?
Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Get
on the ground now.
On?
Get on the ground and you're getting sprayed again. Get on the ground.
Can you please talk to me about what's
Get on the ground. Get on the ground now.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Can you please talk to me about what's going on?
You're not.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? Why?
Because you're not cooperating. Get on the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? This is really messed up. This is really messed up.
Sir, well,
This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up.
Now, that was the video from Officer Gutierrez. This is the video of, I'm going to show some of this, of Nazario. He was shooting from his cell phone. Go.
Let me see your hands. How many occupants are in the vehicle?
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going
Open the
on?
door slowly and step out. Open the door.
I'm not getting out the vehicle. What's going on?
Get out the car. Open the door slowly and get out.
What's going on?
Get out of the car now.
Open the door and get out the car.
Hold. Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window.
My hands are right here. What's going on?
Get out of the car now.
Get out of the car.
What's
now.
going on?
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now.
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated?
Yo, guess what? I'm a veteran too. I'm going to obey.
That's
Get
not...
out of the car.
What's going on?
Get out of the car now.
What's going on?
What's going on is you're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
I'm sorry, what?
Get out of the car now.
What's going on?
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Sir, just get out the car. Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I
Yeah, you
ask you
should
what's
be.
going?
Get out.
What's going on? What
Get
did
out
I
the
do?
car. Get out now.
I have not committed any crimes.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest
For a traffic...
You're being detained, okay? You're being detained for
a
obstruction of
traffic violation. I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told me why I'm being stopped.
Really?
Get your hands...
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me, please. Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. I didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir, get out of the car now.
Don't do that.
Hey,
Don't do that.
Right, so this all started because Nazario is driving a new vehicle, tinted windows, had a paper license plate that was taped to the window. They hit their lights to pull him over. He continued to drive to a well-lit gas station. He pulled into a BP gas station. Let's bring back our law enforcement panel. Okay, so let's walk through this. First, Reddit, I'll start with you. The officer radios and said a felony traffic stop. What was the felony?
There wasn't. That's what I'm saying. In the other discussion we were having, there was no felony, man. The probable cause that was indicated that I'm aware of was something to do with his license plate. That doesn't constitute a felony stop. A felony stop involves a vehicle that's wanted for a felony, assault first, or something like that, or something you saw on view, committed by a person who then is leaving in the vehicle. This is neither of those. And again, it comes back to the theme. When you hear the directives that this officer is issuing, it's all about do what I say. There is never an attempt at any point where it would have been reasonable to tell the guy, hey, man, we stopped you because we couldn't see your plate. And we had to, stop you and get some clarity on the vehicle and its occupant. And that's why we're standing right here, as opposed to the escalation that we see over and over and over again when it comes to police exercising the power that they've been given by the state. And too many times it's exercised recklessly, as it was in this case. And unfortunately for this officer, he was caught on camera because, had he not been caught on camera, none of the consequences that have followed would be in place. I doubt that he would have lost his job. I doubt that he would have been disciplined. But thank God for the cameras. Thank God for the increasing number of voices we hear around the country. I would single out the two panelists who were here with me, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, Dr. DeLacy Davis here in St. Louis, Sergeant Heather Taylor, retired Sergeant Heather Taylor, Keith Williams out on the West Coast, and others around the country who have forced this conversation and now finding ourselves joined in the dialogue by people who understand we're at a critical point, man. You can't go back. You can't tinker around the edges with this system relative to reforms. The system needs to be remade. The way we do public safety needs to be remade. So he was out of line and he shouldn't be in police work.
Cheryl, you hear Gutierrez yell, "You're going to ride the lightning," which actually was a phrase from the movie The Green Mile, where one of the characters was on death row. That's where that came from. You heard the aggression in his voice. You heard the calm nature of Nazario. Why are you pulling me over? I don't understand. No, just get out of the car. Then Gutierrez yells, "It's obstruction of justice." How? You haven't even told me why I'm being pulled over. At no point do you hear them ask. They come out of the car with guns. So if I'm Nazario, I'm the same way. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm not about to get out of a car and two cops both got guns on me. I don't know what's going to happen.
So, this was a situation in my mind where we have a tenured veteran officer, white man, who's going to show that little young rookie how to tame a black man. Let me show what you do with a Negro who doesn't respond to orders. He was reaching and grabbing for all sorts of justifications. You're under arrest for obstruction. No, you're being detained. And you can see the rookie officer, he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's looking left, right. He's trying to figure out what his senior training officer is doing. He's trying to mimic some of the actions that he sees the more seasoned officer engage in. This is not a training issue. This is somebody who has animus because a black man had the temerity to not follow his order. And so for that, sir, you will pay.
See, and the thing here that is crazy, DeLacy, again, watching this, and we're going to pull the video up in a second of when a senior officer comes to the scene and they're providing him treatment, but Nazario says that you guys threatened my military career. That also happened during this encounter.
This isn't about, as my colleague just said, about training. I think it's about training day. I started the conversation with the mentality. We're talking about a warrior mentality versus a guardian mentality. We're talking about law enforcement versus public safety. We're absolutely talking about a lack of respect for black and brown men by white men, period. It's as simple as that. It's not convoluted. You don't have to reach for straws. We don't have to go train anybody to de-escalate. The lieutenant was de-escalating. Through all of this, he was very calm in his demeanor. They were giving conflicting commands. One little idiot tells him to get out the car and take off the seatbelt. The other one says, keep your hands out the window. Well, how do I get the seatbelt off with my hands out the window?
Right.
Taught training, be quiet, and one person gives commands.
All right, so and also to show how, to your point, how you have these racist white men, how they look. Here's this racist Greg Kelly, who you see on Newsmax. And again, I need everybody to understand how narrative is set. This is what he tweets. Troublemaker, Lieutenant Nazario, should be kicked out of the military. His stupid actions and unwillingness to comply with very basic instructions from police means he's incapable of ever leading. Go to the next one. Now, this is the one that cracks me up. One more little tidbit. The bad Lieutenant Nazario had a loaded gun on the floor of the car, in the front seat, by his leg, something the corrupt folks in the media won't say for some reason. Greg, Virginia is an open carry state. I thought y'all loved the Second Amendment. It's an open carry state. You literally don't have to have a permit to have a gun in a vehicle in Virginia. But you see how the racist white man on Newsmax, Greg Kelly, wants to frame it as, oh, this out-of-control black man, and then go back to it. He goes, one great cop is Lieutenant Joe Gutierrez, a Marine vet. He shows compassion, sensitivity, and yes, appropriate aggressiveness. The EMTs were very courteous as well. Nice job, Windsor, Virginia. Well, Greg, you might want to help them pay this big-ass settlement they about to pay, because it's about to happen. But again, just to show, just to show again the sheer racism, this fool here literally says, I've seen generals with less attitude, arrogance, and swagger than this second lieutenant. Anybody who sees the video saw Lieutenant Nazario as cool and calm as collected. Here's what the governor of Virginia had to say, Ralph Northam. This is the statement that he actually released. Pull it up, please. The incident in Windsor is disturbing and angered me, and I am directing the Virginia State Police to conduct an independent investigation. Our Commonwealth has done important work on police reform, but we must keep working to ensure that Virginians are safe during interactions with police. The enforcement of laws is fair and equitable, and people are held accountable. I'm inviting Army Medic Lieutenant Karan Nazario to meet soon. We must all continue the larger dialogue about reform in our country. Cheryl, he has filed a civil suit against Windsor. They know they're going to have to pay up, because here's the deal. He was released after all of that. No charges. So why the hell did you pull him over?
And, you know, we see this time and time again. And, you know, I often talk about what happens when a police officer kills one of us. And then, of course, there's only one story to tell, and it's the one that they've crafted and created. Thankfully, Lieutenant Nazario did not lose his life. The governor wants him to come meet with him. I hope he doesn't let him talk him out of the civil suit. Let them go ahead and throw buckets of money at him like they always do when they harm or kill us. They do nothing to change substantively that police policy. And I hope that someone in Virginia will take up legislation that will decertify officers like we're trying to do here in California, so that this Gutierrez can't go to another department right next door. Firing him was a great first step, but that doesn't preclude him from joining another police department who's sympathetic, like we saw with Timothy Loman. After he shot and killed Tamir Rice, there was a neighboring agency who decided they wanted to give him a second chance, but it was really a third chance. And so we see time and time again officers being gifted resignation and then being well compensated. Betty Shelby shot and killed Terrence Crutcher. This heifer's now teaching how to get away with murder. I call it, they call it, how to survive a critical incident. And so it's outrageous that this continues to happen, but for accountability, substantive accountability, this will continue.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Well, former House Speaker John Boehner called Senator Ted Cruz Lucifer in an interview yesterday on The View. He talked about him being a complete ass and just being, frankly, an evil person no one likes. Well, this is Senator Ted Cruz's response to that Michael Vick commercial we just showed you, dealing with Georgia voter suppression put out by the folks with more than a vote. Cruz tweeted, "If you like killing puppies, this might be persuasive." That's what that fool said. The same man who abandoned Texas, of course, in the middle of a winter storm where Texans died. You know, bottom line here, Mustafa, Ted Cruz, grossly unlikable. Very few people will actually say positive stuff about him. Now, he's all happy because he announced today he raised something like $5 million in his war chest. He's frankly an embarrassment to me, being a native Texan. You will never hear me call him my senator at all. He's a complete suck up to Donald Trump. The man called your wife ugly, accused your dad of killing Lee Harvey Oswald, and you still kissed his chapped ass. So now he wants to sit here and complain about Michael Vick. Oh, really, Ted Cruz? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have any moniker of respect for somebody who doesn't stand up for their wife, doesn't stand up for communities. You know, he's actually played a role. You know, you make a choice which side of the equation you want to be on. You know, he was one of those folks who was out there when COVID-19 was at the height of the pandemic. And of course, we still have serious impacts going on, who was pretty much, you know, saying it was a hoax and not putting action behind it. We got to remember, this is a senator. He has some power. So he could have very easily, you know, got together with others and began to have the right conversations and say, hey, we need to make sure that these dollars are inside of these relief bills to actually make sure that, you know, black and brown and indigenous folks actually have what they need to be protected. But he never did that. And you can go down a laundry list of things from voting to jobs to a number of other issues where he's always been on the wrong side of history. So you don't really get a chance to have a real conversation because you've ignored them and you've tried to shy away from some of the most important issues of our time.
This right here, Kelly, is a tweet LeBron James issued 4 hours ago in response to Ted Cruz. It is certain in any case that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can have, quoting James Baldwin.
This is Ted Cruz we're talking about. I have absolutely no respect for this man, if you want to call him that at all. This is the same man who literally ditched his state in a time of crisis a couple months ago to go to Mexico because his wife and kids were cold, and then decided to come back from that trip early, making it look like, oh, I was just dropping off my kid and wife in Mexico, but I'm going to brave the cold. Like, he is a coward to the nth degree. He is, he's a cretin in every sense of the word. So the fact that he is once again opening his mouth just to spew bile is not surprising, because that is his MO. That is all he does, all he can do, and all he's really good for.
That is all he's good for. And again, the man is just beyond shameful, despicable. No one can trust him at all. And I must say that exchange, Benjamin, on The View, I thought was perfect. This is former Speaker John Boehner talking about Senator Ted Cruz.
Your animosity for Senator Ted Cruz, but you take it to the next level in the book, writing, quote, "There's nothing more dangerous than a reckless beep who thinks he's smarter than everyone else," unquote. Now, you say even Mitch McConnell hated him with a passion.
Not sure, having some issues here, but let me see if I can get this queued up right. Let's see if this works. Trying to play this, because the soundbite is actually just perfect in talking about Ted Cruz. So hopefully I can get this straight here. But I mean, my goodness, the guy is just insufferable. I think we got it now. Go.
But you take it to the next level in the book, writing, quote, "There's nothing more dangerous than a reckless beep who thinks he is smarter than everyone else," unquote. Now, you say even Mitch McConnell hated him with a passion I didn't know Mitch had in him. And we hear you ad-libbed some rather colorful commentary we can't repeat here when you recorded the audiobook portion about him. What is it about Cruz that gets you so fired up? Because Cruz says you're obsessed with him.
Well, this guy was not even a member of the U.S. House. He's a member of the Senate. And he's coming over to the House side of the Capitol, stirring up some of my knuckleheads and pushing them to do things that are about the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. And he's not even a member of our caucus. And so it really just a bit bizarre that I've never quite seen anything happen before or since, like the activities of Ted Cruz. And, I don't really beat up too many people in this book, except one. Ted Cruz, Lucifer in the flesh.
Ooh, yes. We will be back. We will be back with former Speaker John Boehner when we return. He does not. He does not hold back.
Hey, Lucifer in the flesh. Love it, Ben.
Yeah, no, that's a great soundbite. I wish John Boehner would have done something about it while he was Speaker of the House. I wish that John Boehner would have spoken about that while he had power to influence the outcome of some of these elections. Because if he's really a patriot, then he would have stepped up and helped rid ourselves of Lucifer in the flesh. Now, that said, he's describing Ted Cruz to the T. And this is a scenario where you see two people like John Boehner is saying all the things that we want to hear, but I let them fight because they continue to allow these type of Republicans, Tom Cotton, it's not just Ted Cruz, it's Tom Cotton, it's all across the board where Republicans are destroying our democracy in real time, and we have to wait till John Boehner's book come out before he says something that actually could impact that last election.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Lots of changes in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Of course, that's where, young man, 20 years old, Daunte Wright was shot and killed during a traffic stop on Sunday. The police chief has quit. Officer Kimberly Potter, who also leads the police union, she has resigned from the police department. Potter submitted her resignation letter today. This is what it actually says. Dear Mayor Elliott, Mr. Edwards, and Chief Gannon, I am tendering my resignation from the Brooklyn Center Police Department effective immediately. I've loved every minute of being a police officer and serving this community to the best of my ability. But I believe it is in the best interest of the community, the department, and my fellow officers if I resign immediately. Sincerely, Officer Kim Potter. At a news conference today, the mayor announced that the chief is also resigned. We're going to show you some of what took place at the news conference. Watch this.
Let me be very clear. My position is that we cannot afford to make mistakes that lead to the loss of life of other people in our profession. And so I do fully support releasing the officer of her duties.
All right, folks, that was the wrong video there. We're going to queue up for you the video from today's news conference. It was a lot of moving developments today that took place today in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. The protests have continued there in Brooklyn Center. It took place, all day there, and it has been an extremely busy day. Folks continue to demand significant changes take place in Brooklyn City, not just with, of course, the case of the officer and the chief, but also how they conduct themselves. At the news conference today, one of the things the chief made clear that the city council passed a resolution that stated that the police department cannot use tear gas or rubber bullets in dealing with protesters there in Brooklyn Center. That was important because protesters said they were condemning, frankly, the actions of the police department when it came to dealing with the protesters. And so that was one of the moves. And this followed the city council firing the city manager and then giving the mayor the power to take charge of the police department. A lot of different things going on. He made it perfectly clear that they want to have the trust of the community as much as they could. And so, again, that's what took place today. Here's the tweet that went out yesterday. Effective immediately, our city manager has been relieved of his duties. The deputy city manager will be assuming his duties moving forward. I will continue to work my hardest to ensure good leadership at all levels of our city government. That is Mayor Mike Elliott. As I said, he was very calm, very cool, collected today at his news conference, but he is facing a lot of pressure to really make some serious changes there in Brooklyn City as a result of what took place on the shooting on Sunday. The parents of Daunte, they have been appearing a variety of news outlets speaking out about what took place and what needs to happen. And they're saying that they simply cannot accept this excuse that what took place was a mistake. As they said, their son would not come back to life as a result. This is why, here's the mayor right here speaking about why she resigned and why Kim Potter wasn't fired.
In order for us to make that decision, we were going through our own processes to make sure that that internally we had all of the documentation in order to be able to do that. But you know, the officer resigned, and so we have that resignation at this moment. In order for us to
so that was Mike Elliott speaking today at the news conference. As I said, protests have continued all throughout Brooklyn City. It took place last night as well, and so this here was video from last night's protest. As you see, officers there in the gear lined up. And so folks have been demanding, again, there to be significant changes that take place. I'm going to pull up some other additional video from the news conference. I want to bring in my panel right now to talk about this here, talk about several other different things that took place in the news conference. Joining us right now is Mustafa Santiago Ali, of course, a PhD, a former senior advisor with the EPA, Environmental Justice. Benjamin Dixon, host of Benjamin Dixon Show podcast, Killer Bethea communication strategist. One of the things that happened today, Benjamin, is that the mayor also made it clear that he would like for the Attorney General to take over. The Attorney General, Keith Ellison, to assume command of this particular case, saying it would be only fair and just. Of course, Attorney General Keith Ellison took charge of the case of the officers who killed George Floyd. So just your thoughts on just the rapidly changing developments in Brooklyn City, Minnesota.
Yeah, the mayor has a balancing act that he has to take right now. And I think he's doing the best that he can do, considering the demand for justice from all across the country. And so to leave things static would be a problem because of the implications of everything that's happening around the country. I think it was a smart move to call on Keith Ellison to step in, because we can't leave the city police to investigate themselves, because we've seen so many times that leads to no justice whatsoever. And if we're lucky, we may get some justice now that it's in the hands of the Attorney General.
First of all, Kelly, to have them, again, chief resigns, the officer who shot and killed Wright resigns, firing the city manager. This mayor is not playing around when it comes to making immediate changes. Normally, we see a lot slower response from elected leadership, especially in a very small town.
Well, they can't afford to have small and slow changes, especially in this jurisdiction and in this state in particular, because to my understanding, this is about the third one in less than 5 years. You have this one, you have George Floyd, of course, from last year, and then you have Philando Castile from a couple years prior. And all three of these are incidents where Black men were shot down, unnecessarily so, at the hands of brazen, overzealous, over policing police. So the mayor and the powers that be in this particular jurisdiction in Minnesota, they understand that, and they also understand the crowd, not the crowd, but the response from the court of public opinion regarding these matters. And what they don't want is basically another uprising, another, streak of protests and damage to properties and things like that. I'm not saying that is worse than the shooting, but from a government administrative perspective, I can see how that is one of their priorities in making sure the entire community is safe. So kudos to the mayor of this town for just basically expediting the process and draining the swamp of these people who are low-key responsible for police officers like this being on the street.
Mustafa, one of the things we also heard in the news conference, people were talking about the need for Brooklyn City cops to live in the city. And so the mayor was talking about, again, a number of things they're looking at changing in the city.
Yeah, folks are looking for systemic change. And that means from the top all the way down. Whether you're talking about training, when you're talking about the movement of resources to other forms that help to build trust with the community and help to make sure that there's better policing that's actually happening, that actually has the community as a driver and a framer in that. And when you don't do that, we continue to see these types of not just egregious behaviors, but the sacrificing of black men that continues to happen, not just there in that state, but across our country. So folks want systemic change. And when you clean house, as he did, it shows that that's the first step in that process. The harder set of work is actually how you begin to root out the systemic racism and biases that are inside of your police department, and the new sets of actions that have the voices of communities as a driver in that.
Here is something else that came up in the news conference, Benjamin. This video here, it shows this blue line flag that was flying outside of the police department. That angered a lot of people, and they said that flag must come down. And today, the mayor announced that flag has indeed come down, and it is only the United States flag that is flying in front of that police department. Speak to that and what that means for the mayor to say that that flag has to come down in order to engender trust in this community.
Well, so first and foremost, the mayor is taking on the entire police department by giving them the instructions to take it down, which is the right thing to do, because that flag is kind of just in place of what they really want to fly, with a Donald Trump flag or even a Confederate flag, because that's what it symbolizes. And it symbolizes the brutality and the oppression that comes from the police department as it pertains to black people specifically, and black men even more particularly. And so for them to fly it, it was a sign to the entire country that they really did not give a damn about what was going on or the life that they took. And it's only fitting that the mayor told them to take it down, but it never needs to go back up across any police station across this country ever again.
Of course, there was a news conference that also took place outside today. Here is attorney Ben Crump, who's been hired by the Wright family to represent them.
And you have this 26-year veteran on the police force who was training them, Brandon. Trey, she was the trainer of the officers. And so for 26 years, you know how you're trained that your duty weapon is on your dominant side and your taser is on your non-dominant side. And why is that? Because it's foreseeable that in an exigent situation, if the taser is beside the gun, you might pull the wrong thing. But after 26 years, you would think that you know what side your gun is on and what side your taser is on. You know the weight of your gun and you know the weight of the taser. You know the gun is black. You know the taser is going to have some reflective color on it. And so it is unacceptable. It was intentional they stopped them. It was intentional they used the most force. They could have gave them a ticket. That's what they do in traffic citations. It reminds you of George Floyd. That was a misdemeanor. They could have gave him a ticket for that. But when it's black people in America, they engage in the most use of force. And it ends up with deadly consequences. And
Now, Wright was initially stopped again, folks, for having an air freshener hanging in his car. Minnesota is one of several states that prohibits hanging anything from a vehicle's rearview mirror that might obstruct a driver's vision. Now, one of the things that's interesting here, Kelly, is that stories have been done where police have actually said that one of the things that they've done is they've used these type of laws to make arrests when it comes to drugs and things along those lines. Despite all these right-wing people out here who are trying to post to say, oh, he was pulled over because he had a warrant. No, that wasn't the case. He was pulled over because of the air freshener. Once they stopped him, they ran his name and realized there was a warrant. Now we are seeing information that the warrant was problematic because they sent the notice for his hearing to the wrong address. So there shouldn't have even been a warrant for his arrest because the court screwed up.
So this is a perfect example of how screwed up this system is. The fact that even with technology being as quick as it is, such that you can figure out when a warrant is issued or the like by way of computer in your police car, it is still an issue in which correcting that warrant doesn't get to you in time. And just in terms of warrantless searches and the like, again, to the system being, frankly, just screwed up. But more pointedly, let's just say there was no warrant involved and he was just pulled over for the air freshener in his car, which is, from what you just said, the initial reason he was stopped. To get from that point to the death of a young man shouldn't be that close. Those 2 points should be so far on opposite sides of the spectrum, it's ridiculous. But unfortunately, because he's a black man, it's as close as A and B. So we have a problem in this country, but right now we have just an immediate problem with police over-policing black bodies. And in Minnesota, again, like I said previously, this is the third one in less than 5 years. So they have a huge, huge problem.
And of course, Mustafa, this police department, this city is going to be facing a huge, huge lawsuit, especially when you factor in not just the shooting, but also if Ben Crump and his legal team are able to show that warrant was sent to the wrong address and that supposedly precipitated all of this. Yeah, this city is going to be paying a substantial amount of money to the Wright family.
When Ben Crump comes for you, what you gonna do? You know what you're gonna do. You're gonna end up having to pay a whole lot of money for these injustices that continue to happen. You know, it's amazing that when it comes to our black lives, when they have value, is when folks can make money off of us. And what I mean by that is when you have these jurisdictions across the country who set up these spaces where they have these traffic stops, as we talked about, where they increase the amount of tickets that go out because it helps to fund many of their sets of activities that they then flip back into our communities. But our lives have very little meaning and very little value when it comes to, you know, many of these police departments across the country, when it comes to actually making sure that justice is happening and that we're not being used in so many forms and fashions.
And again, and for the folks who don't quite understand, because I keep seeing these comments on social media, especially on our chat boards. Folks, let's be real clear here. Ben Crump and these civil rights lawyers, they can't prosecute cops. Only DAs can. They are hired by the family to actually negotiate settlements. Now, if it means taking it to trial, they'll do so. 99% of the time, they're not going to trial. So I wish all of these people stop saying this stupid stuff. Oh, Ben Crump keeps losing cases. Y'all, they can't prosecute cops. They can't. They aren't prosecutors, okay? So understand what the law is, what the roles of lawyers are. They are hired by the family to represent them in civil suits against cities, police departments, and individuals. So I just need people to stop sitting here and posting that nonsense, because clearly a bunch of y'all don't understand what the jobs are of individuals. And so please stop with the nonsense, okay? Just stop it.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. So in Minneapolis, a lot of things happening in court today. Main thing, Derek Chauvin, the ex-cop who killed George Floyd, chose not to take the stand to testify in his case. He pled the Fifth Amendment. Here's the video.
Mr. Chauvin, you and I have had several discussions throughout the course of my representation of you relevant to your right to testify or to choose to remain silent, correct?
That's correct.
And during the course of our representation, it's fair to say that you and I have had this conversation multiple times, correct?
Correct.
You understand that you have a Fifth Amendment privilege to remain silent. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand that if you choose to exercise that right to remain silent, neither the state nor the court can comment on your silence as a sign or an indication of your guilt. Meaning they can't say he didn't get up and defend himself, so equate your silence with guilt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Now, you also understand that you can waive that right and testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that if you chose not to testify, or if you did in fact testify, you would be subject to cross-examination by the state of Minnesota.
Yes.
You understand that if you were cross-examined by the state, we could not attempt to limit the scope of your testimony. The state would be given broad latitude to ask you questions. Do you understand that?
Yes.
We've had this conversation repeatedly, correct?
Correct.
I have repeatedly advised you that this is your decision and your decision alone, right?
Correct.
I have advised you, and we have gone back and forth on the matter, would be kind of an understatement, right?
Yes, it is.
But after a lengthy meeting last night, we had some further discussion, agreed?
Correct.
And have you made a decision today whether you intend to testify or whether you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
Right. Mr. Chauvin, I'm going to address you directly because the decision whether or not to testify, let me take this off, is entirely yours. In other words, it's a personal right. Mr. Nelson makes a lot of the decisions in trial, but one he cannot make for you is whether or not you testify. And he can give you advice, and you can take that advice or reject that advice. But the decision ultimately has to be yours and not his. Is this your decision not to testify?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions about your right to remain silent or to testify on your own behalf?
Not at this time, I don't.
All right. Has anyone promised anything or threatened you in any way to keep you from testifying?
No promises or threats, Your Honor.
And so in other words, as to the statement that his carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%, in your view, that's not possible.
It's simply wrong.
And it was at most 2%.
At most 2%.
Normal.
Which is normal.
All right, folks. So again, Derek Chauvin choosing not to take the stand. Let's go to my panel. Greg Carr, who is the chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Brittany Lewis, she's a political analyst. Amisha Cross, political analyst, Democratic strategist. First of all, I'll start with you, Brittany. Jury's going to soon get this. Is it any shock Derek Chauvin chose not to take the stand?
I mean, I'm not surprised that he didn't take the stand. I think that it's very clear that would have been the final nail in his coffin. I think that the prosecution has done a good job laying him all the way out, quite frankly. Jerry Blackwell's been great dismantling everything that's been put forth. And I think that would also, had he taken the stand, I think there would also have been an opportunity for them to talk about his previous record. And we know that this isn't his first instance of police brutality. So, either way, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I'm not surprised whatsoever.
Amisha.
I agree
with Brittany there, because at the end of the day, I never had any expectation that Derek Chauvin would take the stand. One, he would be facing what he's faced thus far in terms of a prosecution that not only did their homework, but presented a very strong case against him. But also, I think that his lawyer knew what the general public does not necessarily. In preparation for this, they've probably gone back and forth just in case he was to decide to take it. And at the end of the day, this is someone who does not come across remorseful in any way. I think that his posturing would have caused a greater trouble for him, even if he had decided to take the stand. He's not somebody who comes off remorseful. He's not someone who has any level of regret. He's also someone who, because he has so many instances of police brutality that are documented cases in terms of the folks who filed claims against him, at this point, there was no way to get away from that. And if he got on the stand and was argumentative, if he got on the stand and tried to make light of those situations, I think that it would have hurt him in the end. So to his part, I think it was actually smart for him to sit this one out, because he's the one who has his back up against the wall right now. And I don't think that him testifying would have provided any bit of help for his situation.
Dr. Greg Carr, your assessment of where this trial stands.
I agree. I think that I would like to know, and I expect that we will all find out whenever he does his tell-all book, since he's never told his story publicly, and I'm sure that that's the first time most of us have ever heard his little voice. I would like to know what the conversation was between him and his lawyer, between him and Nelson. Which one of them said you should testify, and which one said no. Remember, the defense theory is very basic. It's 4 words. Well, no, it's not even 4 words. What we've seen over the last couple of days is 4 words, the battle of the experts. This is when the eyes glaze over. Anyone watching this thinking we're tracing it through logic or strength of arguments, please understand the defense strategy is very basic. George Floyd was not human. This human being faced a wall of savages in a jungle and had no course to resort to except his training, which was to preserve his human life and protect humanity from the threat. So it doesn't matter whether or not, as we saw Dr. Tobin eviscerate that fool David Fowler, who is currently one of the people being sued by the family of Anton Black here in Maryland, because he is known as a bag man for the police in terms of being a medical examiner. It doesn't matter whether that theory of CO2 or heart defect or heart disease or drugs, it doesn't matter whether that's factually accurate or not. The defense has a basic objective. We must get one of these jurors who will be sequestered beginning Monday, one of these jurors who are now going home to see escalating protests in Brooklyn Park, one of these jurors to look at Derek Chauvin and say, I understand white power. You had to do what you did. And I don't give a damn what these other 11 say. You, sir, are not guilty. And that's the 2 words it's going to come down to: reasonable doubt. Him keeping his mouth shut, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best possible strategy, because there's nothing he can say or needs to say to that one juror who's sitting over there like, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Well, that was certainly the case. And boy, Brittany, how nuts was it? This whole carbon monoxide, that's what killed George Floyd.
I have to laugh because it was just so, Dr. Fowler was reaching for straws and coming up with speculative and wild theories. This man really has the audacity to every other possible scenario but Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck as the reason that killed him. And carbon monoxide, he even admitted that they didn't test, well, he said it on the stand, that, they didn't test for carbon monoxide. So how is it possible that you can even make that claim? And even if we are to entertain that foolishness, if it was death by carbon monoxide poisoning from the exhaust pipe, who put George Floyd in the position to be forced to inhale the deadly gas in the first place? It's foolishness, Roland.
I just couldn't help but laugh at that one, Amisha. And then who was the one who put George Floyd on the ground to be right next to the pipe? Derek Chauvin.
You're absolutely right. Like, it came out of nowhere. It was something that wasn't presented beforehand at all because it was completely irrelevant. It was also an instance where there is no proof to show that the motor was still running or that the car was on at all. So nobody actually knows. But in addition to that, from the autopsy and all the medical reports, there is no evidence that showcases that this was a cause of death. This was a last-minute throw in, the same as it was when there was an argument that apparently the same doctor found that that George Floyd was not actually in pain. So let's just believe that he was laying on the pavement chilling, according to that doctor or that expert, that there was nothing, there was nothing out of the ordinary here, and that this was normal protocol. There was so much going wrong with that testimony. And I think that just, the fact that he was able to throw in some things that he couldn't draw a linear direction towards. And we have to be clear about this. He never actually said that carbon monoxide was the cause. What he did was go down this listing of how it could be a contributing factor, not really knowing whether it was or not, but also planting that seed to Dr. Carr's point, planting that seed in the heads of a juror, a potential juror, somebody who already is probably thinking, well, maybe this was not Derek Chauvin's fault, trying to find a way to weasel in their head to get this man off. And I think that, to that extent, that specific witness provided that leveraging point for him.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible.